Okay, so two-dimensional body, one of the three dimensions is small compared to the other two, then it becomes a two-dimensional. So I gave you example of two-dimensional. Most of the bodies are three-dimensional, first of all. So there is nothing like truly two-dimensional. But we make approximation, we make assumption, we make idealization. These are the words which are used. We idealize, we approximate, we make assumption. So here we idealize a body which is not which is close to 2D, and so 2D body can be described on a plane of the paper with xy coordinate, because z dimension is small. So here z dimension is very small. Compared to x and y dimensions. So this is about the physics of the problem. So it has some thickness, but then we can we can describe it on a plane of a paper, and any point P here whose coordinates are x and y. Now we can have, now if this body is, first of all, that means 2D body, I am talking of first type of body which is thin, a sheet of paper or number of sheets of paper, is yes. And if all the loads that are acting on this body, because how will the stress be created in the body? You apply load. Now if all the loads are in the same plane, xy plane, that means all the loads that are acting, they are all acting in xy plane only. Nothing is perpendicular to the plane. There is no load that is perpendicular or in z direction. So all loads are confined. So this is very important. There can be some moments also, but then the moments will be like this. This is okay? Yes, separated by a small distance, you have couple which is acting in the plane of the sheet. Now if all the loads are there in the same plane, then we call a kind of state of stress that gets developed in the body, we call it plane stress. Plane stress, state of stress. Plane stress, state of stress. Plane. And if I take this point and draw a small square around it, now I do not have to draw a cube, because the body is a two-dimensional. So I will just expand this. So you have so state of stress at point P can be described by drawing a small square around it, by having lines parallel to x and y coordinates, and then this will be your positive x coordinate, this is the positive y plane, this is the negative x plane, this is negative y plane. Is it okay? Planes are, so this one is positive, this is negative, this one also is negative. Now the stress that will be acting on this will be sigma x or tau xx on a plane whose outward normal in x direction. So first subscript will be x, In fact, two subscripts are not needed for if I denote it by sigma x, but then this will be tau xx and in x direction. Then the shear stress on this plane will be tau xy. On this plane the stress will be sigma y and shear stress will be this is a positive y plane. So the shear stress, positive shear stress on this will be in the positive y direction, so it will be like this, and here you can clearly show that this shear stress tau xy and this will be tau yx. See how they are pointing towards the same edge. Now this edge is the edge of the three-dimensional cube, because z dimension now is not important. So we are drawing only xy plane. Okay. Now similarly, when you go on the negative x plane, so this is negative, positive sigma x will be in the negative direction. So this will be in the negative direction. So this will be sigma x, and then the positive shear stress will be again in the negative y direction. So this will be like this, and this will be tau xy. You come to this plane, positive shear, positive normal stress will be sigma y in the negative y direction. Why it should be in negative direction? No. This sigma y, why should it be in the negative y direction? This is a positive stress, but it is So on a negative plane, positive stresses are always in the negative coordinate direction. And then I told you this can be justified. Let me first draw. This can be, so on a negative plane, now this positive shear stress will be in the negative y direction here. So tau yx, and here also you see that this shear stress tau yx and this tau xy, they are again at the common. So here they are pointing away, here they are pointing. See, this one is cut. This element has been, I have cut a small square out of this sheet, and then I am drawing these on the edges. They are not drawn on z plane. They are being drawn on x plane, y plane. And then what was your question? Area element is drawn in xy plane, but then this area is defined by a z normal. If you draw a normal to this area, that is in z direction. XY plane is all right, but then this area is defined by a z. Now the edges, because once you cut it, once I take this element out, I want to find out what is the state of stress here. So I have drawn this and I take it out. So there must be some interaction forces between this edge and the next sheet edge, the adjoining edge and whatever is the remaining body of this. So on this one I am drawing the shear. Normal stress is not drawn on this plane, not on the z plane, please. Okay. So we are not talking of z plane, the area that you see. Dx, this is dy, that is an area. If you draw, this area is defined by a z normal. Okay, so this has nothing to do with stress. We are drawing on the cut edge, the edge that is cut. Now y edge is this. This is the x edge, and this is taken out. Once you taken out, you isolate the element. Then there must be some interaction forces between the remaining body and that edge. So equal and opposite must act. So this is on this edge. Okay, so they are on x and y. There is nothing on this. We have not drawn because there won't be any stress or force on z plane because there is no force applied in z direction. All loads are confined to xy direction only. So this state of stress, if you have a state of, if the loading if the body thickness is small and loading is confined to the same plane, supposing this is the plane, and if I stretch it, then the state of stress at any point here inside this body will be called a plane stress state of stress. Plane state stress of, is it okay? The body, first condition is the body must be thin, and second condition is load must be applied in the same plane. These are the two conditions. Under that condition, you will get a two-dimensional state of stress, and that is called plane state of stress. And then now I can, so now out of this total tau xx, she should always keep this in mind. At any point you have this three-dimensional state of stress. You are all smart boys, so there is no harm in showing this three-dimensional, because this is otherwise in undergraduate people don't show this and explain this. So this is this gets reduced to, so this is 3D. If the body is special, this 3D gets reduced to 2D, and how it will get reduced to 2D? Now I have only tau xx, tau xy, this is 0. Here it is tau yx, tau yy, this is 0, this is 0, this is 0. And then this can be expressed, instead of 3 by 3, I can write a 2 by 2 tensor. Make it, so this is a 2 by. So you have only 4 components. Out of these 4 components, 2 are, out of how many are independent? This is independent, but these are not independent. I have told you these will always be complementary to each other and equal to each other. Complementary means on right angle planes, they will be pointing towards a common edge or going away from the other edges. Okay. So this is, they are complementary. So you have three independent stress quantities. Okay. So this is one. Now who asked us, so plane stress, now at the same, if this is the body xy, at the same point there is no finality about taking the element. I can take also an element like this. Of course, I will have to give what is the angle between this. So at the same point P, stress can also be described in terms of planes which are drawn parallel to x dash, y dash, because I told you there is no uniqueness about stress at a point. Stress is there, but it depends upon the orientation of the plane that we are choosing. It all depends upon us, what orientation we are choosing. It so happens that one can be transformed to the other, that we will learn little later. Okay. So if you know with reference to one set of axes, we can always find out with reference to the other set of axes in terms of the other one. So that is possible. Is it okay? So I can also have stresses. So if you take this out, so my element is now oriented with reference to, so this is sigma x dash, tau x dash y dash, sigma y dash, tau y dash x dash. And similarly, now I have seen at the end of the course many students will draw shear stresses which is clockwise, all are anti-clockwise. It cannot be. So this is like so it is possible to transform this set of this the four stress components in terms of x and y. It is possible that we will learn transformation. I have already given you one exercise for 3 dimensions. Now once you know 3 dimension, 2 dimension will be child's play. So that we can always transform once you know one setup. So this is, so always understand at any point P you can take any element in any orientation and show the state of stress. And state of stress means complete all the components. It is not one component. Yes sir, stress at this point is sigma x. No. Stress at point P is given by the parameters or by the quantities that are acting on this square, and they have 2 orthogonal edges, and then all the quantities must be. So unless you say it is a complete set, 4 quantities, out of that 3 are independent. So this is plane stress. Now you can always get 2-dimensional state of stress in another situation. Have you seen dams, water dams which retains water? Why do you retain water? To generate power. How is power generated? Because the water head is increased, and then with this water head you run the turbines which are at the bottom of the dam. So turbine is run, and then you can the mechanical energy is transformed into electrical. So this is the basic principle. So in the case of dam, see, dam is a very important civil engineering structure. Like this thin sheet, where do you get thin sheet of these structures? All this. For example, in a building, all the walls can be idealized. Vertical walls can be idealized as in the state of plane stress. You see, vertical walls are vertical. All the loads are self weight. They are all acting in the same plane. Self weight, due to density of the material, they are acting. Normally, you don't apply a transverse load unless you drive a nail. When you drive a nail in the wall, then you are applying some load perpendicular to the plane. Otherwise, they are all in XY. Okay. So vertical walls in the membranes. There are many. You have seen balloon, big balloon. So the membrane of the balloon will be in a state of plane stress. Any shell, what is a shell? Curved surface like this. This is a cylinder. If it is a thin and you pressurize this, close this one end and other, apply some pressure, so this can be pressurized. So this wall of the shell will be in state of, because if you draw take any point, it will be in plane stress. Okay. So these are examples. Now this other thing is a dam. Now dam is a long what kind of structure? See, normally the cross section of the dam is like this. You have and then you retain water up to This is a cross section. This is water level, and this is fixed to the ground. This is foundation, and then you have number of so there will be, so water is filled on this side, and then now this cross section, if you see, it is a very long one. So if I see the longitudinal section, it is a very long, and it is confined between the two. Normally dams are always constructed between what? You know, you have the terrain like this, river is flowing, and then I want to block the water, so I will construct a dam here. So these two ends are very solid, normally hard rock. Anywhere you go, it will be hard rock on both sides. It will not be free end, because otherwise water cannot be contained. It has to be confined. Na? This is the water is, you know, the river is flowing in this kind of terrain, and then you want to block it. So I will construct my dam. Of course, the depth of the dam will not be same everywhere. You know, depth will be varying. That is a different matter. So this one is completely, now cross section looks like this, a trapezium. Now because this is fixed two ends, you see this cross section, and then the load is all acting, you know, this is almost a similar kind of triangular load of water. If you take the same depth of water, everywhere you will have a triangular load of water. Water will always be, you know, water pressure, how does it vary? As depth, rho times x, rho times h, from here. So as you come, as h increases, this pressure also increases, and pressure produces force. Pressure multiplied by area will give you force. So this is the pressure diagram. This diagram triangular I have drawn is a pressure diagram. You are doing, I think, fluid mechanics, by Professor Pani. He is a very good teacher. You know, he teaches very well. So this is, so this one, now this pressure diagram is same throughout. Same load is acting almost in the entire length of the dam, barring, because, you know, these undulations are there. I am just again approximating, I am doing some idealization. Okay, let us assume that the whole depth is same. Okay, so more or less it is the same depth, same water depth, and loading is same, and the two ends of the dam are fixed in the rock, hard rock. So no cross section moves to the left or to the right. There is no motion of this dam in this. Any point, if you take any point P, cannot move to the left or to the right in the direction of length of the longitudinal direction. That means any point in one cross section will always remain in the same plane. All the points lying in a plane, in the cross sectional plane, will always remain in the same cross section. So if this is the cross section of the dam, let us say this is the cross section of the dam, all the points, the loading is such that all the points that are there, they will be moving only within the plane. It is because of the nature of the load. So try to understand this. If you still have difficulty, you come and ask me, how does this happen? No point will move to the left or right. So a plane, a transverse cross-sectional plane remains a plane throughout. It will not get bulged in the longitudinal direction. So a plane remains plane, and we call this, and loading is again, loading on the plane is in the same plane. If you see, yes, cross section is this. So if this is, if I take my, so if I simplify my cross section of the dam, I take a trapezium like this. I don't draw the inclination. Normally you will never have you will always have some inclination here, but now I am drawing a simple dam. So here this is the water depth, water level on one side. So here all the points in this plane of the cross section remain in this. So a plane remains plane. We call this kind of This is also 2 dimension. Then see, whether you take a cross section here in the dam or here or here or here, the behavior will be more or less same. So a 3-dimensional body, actually it is this cross section plus the length. It is a 3-dimensional body. I can idealize this. I need not worry about the longitudinal direction. So if that is the z dimension, I need not worry about the z length, and in x and y itself I can only analyze the cross section of the dam. Okay. So this kind of, that means any point here P, again if you find out the state of stress in this, in the plane of the dam at one, let us say you are doing it at this cross section. This is a cross section, or it is this. Everywhere state of stress is same along the length of the dam. Why it is same? Because depth is more or less same, water pressure is more or less same, cross section is same, and no point is moving either to the left or right. So a cross sectional plane is remaining plane. So I need not worry about this dimension. I am drawing only the cross section. So I need worry only about the cross section, and this cross section can be described only in terms of x and y. Z dimension is immaterial, is not of consequence. How many people understand this? So I need to consider only the cross section of the dam and not the 3-dimensional body of the dam. So no dam is analyzed for the entire length. We just take one cross section, the worst cross section, where the depth is maximum, and try to analyze that. And if you can find out the state of stress there, more or less it will be the same throughout the length. Of course, the state of stress within this plane at every point it will be different. Is it clear? At any xy it will be different, but z it is not important. So such a state of stress, if the loading is like this, that means what is the condition? A very long member constrained between the ends, and then the loading is applied to this long member which is independent of the length. Same water pressure is acting throughout the length. In that case, again we can reduce the 3-dimensional problem. 3D problem can be reduced to 2 dimension, and such a state of stress is called, instead of calling plane stress, we call it plane. It is not PLAIN, not plane speaking, it is a PLANE, plane strain. No, this is called plane stress, plane strain, yes. Plane, yes, plane stress, plane strain. And I will explain. Right now you just remember this, that this is also a 2-dimensional body, and this is called plane strain, STRAIN. I will explain what is the meaning of strain little later, many of you must be knowing. So this is plane strain, state of stress. And this is also 2-dimensional. And this I will explain little later. Let me now 5, 6. Why I am postponing this? Because it will also need understanding the state of strain at a point, which we have not yet covered. So the word strain has come. So this is called plane strain, state of stress. But then because strain has come, we must know something about what is the general state of strain at a point. That we will cover, little later. So right now you understand this is also a 2-dimensional body, and here again we can simplify the problem from 3 to 2D. We will, in this course, mostly cover or mostly describe plane state of stress, as we proceed. Now, what about this? A simple problem, let us say there is a simple rod, a thin rod which is of rectangular cross section. The cross section of this rod is something like this. This is a cross section, and if you apply a tensile force here, P and P, this rod will be under tension. Simple, you are pulling the rod, length is L, P is, and this is, let us say this is, the dimensions is, this is B and this one is H. Vertical dimension is B and then the thickness is H, BH, cross sectional area is BH. And then I ask you, please find out what is the state of stress at point P here. Okay. Now this is a simple. So what you will do? You will draw first by, you will cut it. You cut it by plane perpendicular to the axis. One part, second part also is here. Of course, if this is the part, in order that this is in equilibrium, there must be a P here and there should also be a P here at any cut section, and this is the external force P. So these are the equilibrium forces of the two parts, part A and part B. So I have cut this through a plane which is normal to the axis at passing through point P. So one is because it is a normal, so P, the total force acting on this is this. So we define, I think this has already been, average stress, normal stress. So for example, average normal stress on this plane, because in order to keep, because how will you get this P? P is a result of small forces. See, P is an integrated force. P is the resultant force, but actually on this plane there are so many infinite number of points and each point is subjected to some small forces, which I showed you right in the beginning. Every particle is subjected to some kind of forces. So this is, and there I can say, force divided by area. So this can be stress, and since it is perpendicular, so we denote it by sigma. We assume average stress, we assume that in the entire cross section the value of stress is same, which will not be same actually. So average stress, sigma average, and this is again normal stress, normal to the plane. So if this is the stress, so stress multiplied by area of cross section, which is B into that, must give me P. P is a result of B into H. So this can be, average stress can be P divided by area of cross section, and that is equal to P by B into H. So this is average. Now what happens actually, if you take this point P very close to the place where the load is applied, because a load is applied at a point. So here there is a lot of disturbance. The nature of stress, if I draw this over here, a small strip, here it will not be uniform. Here it will be something like, the variation of stress will be something like this. Actual, because it is too close to the load. So wherever loads are applied, the stresses are highly disturbed, close to the loads where the loads are applied. Because P is in the center, so there will be maximum stress there, and away from this P there will be a drop. So But then if you take the area under this curve, multiply that area by this distribution, you will get again P. That will always give you P. But then to find out this distribution is not easy. We will have to use very involved theory. But then this one is very simple. Average stress is very simple. Now this is the first course that we are studying, this is the introduction. So here we will be concerned with where that means all our cross sections will be away from the load. As long as when you go away and away, this peak will go on reducing. So very close to the load, this peak will be very high. In the next one, this will become little flatter. In the next cross section, as you going away, it will become something like this, and in the finally it will become a okay. So when you go away from the load, the stresses will be more or less uniform. So we will be finding out our stresses mostly away from the loads, not close to the load. So this is the average normal stress. Now this we have taken the plane normal to x axis. Now if you take this, now nobody asks us that yes, you must take only if this is the total length of the rod. And well, away from this, but I am cutting it by a plane like this. I am not taking a normal plane to the axis, I am cutting by a plane like this. So now my first free body diagram is like this. Of course, here the resultant force must be P. Then only it will remain in equilibrium. Then you have the next body. See, we have done all the analysis from the left side. There are two parts now, A and B, it is cut into two parts. So this is the second part. These are the two free body diagrams. Why should this be P like this and this P should be like this? Equilibrium. Any other answer? This is a cut section. Any other answer? At any cut section, you have to make use of Newton's third law. If there is a force here in this direction you have taken, then on the other part it must be Newton's law says, third law says, equal and opposite. Force must exist. So when the two parts come together, it becomes 0. When they are separated, equal and opposite. This force I could have taken also in this direction and this direction. That is also okay. But then this will not be in equilibrium. That is a different matter. But that is a possibility. So this is from Newton's third law. And then of course this is equilibrium for the entire body. You are not considering equilibrium at a section. You are considering equilibrium of part A and part B separately. They must be in equilibrium. Now here you have then equilibrium, you are very good, but then I can have a direction which is normal to the plane, and let us call this angle theta. So this one will be P, I don't know, and then there will be, the resultant is this. Yes. So this will be P. One will be P cosine theta, other one will be P sin theta. So one is P cosine theta. P cosine theta is the normal force to the plane, and P sin theta is the tangential force to the plane. P cosine theta will produce normal stress, and P sin theta will produce what? Shear stress, which is the tangential. Now this is in the plane only. It is in the plane of the paper, and it is there is no stress. No, we are not drawing anything perpendicular to the plane. It is a two-dimensional state of stress. Okay, so this is so P sin theta. So therefore, you have a normal stress. So we call it. Let us call it by sigma theta at an angle theta, normal stress. So that is P cosine theta divided by what area of cross section? If the normal cross section was A, so this one will be what? A by cosine theta. Area also is a vector. So if this is A, what will be this? This angle also, this is going, so this is theta. So this will be A by this diagonal will be A by cosine theta. Is it okay? Diagonal, not A cosine theta, because this length is small, this length is large. It is a diagonal. This angle is theta. So this length will be A by cosine theta. So finally you get P by A cosine square theta. So you have a normal stress sigma theta, which is P by A. Now you can also check, when theta becomes 0, I must get my P by A. Normal stress, when theta becomes 0, when the plane becomes normal, I should have my average stress as P by A. So theta becomes 0, 0, cos theta equal to 0, and so it is okay. I have not made any mistake. This is alright. Now what about the other stress? This tangential. So that let us call is, this one let us call it a tau theta. Now there is no need to have two subscripts, this is simple. I need not have taken, I could have taken, x and y, and then this direction x dash and this direction y dash, and written here tau x dash y dash. Then here sigma x dash, that is also possible. But now I am explaining with the reference to theta. So tau theta will be what? P sin theta divided by area of course A by cos theta. So this becomes P by A s theta cos theta. That means sin theta cos theta. So shear also you can see. So that means at the same point, if you rotate the plane at one, when it is normal, then you are getting only normal stress. Shear becomes 0. When theta equal to 0, sin theta becomes 0. So only this becomes 0. When so 0 you start. When theta becomes 45, then what happens to this? 45 means 1 by root 2, 1 by root 2, so P by 2A. Shear stress becomes P by 2A, and normal stress becomes how much? P by 2A, this also, both. So one can find out at the same point, if you are interested, what is your maximum normal stress? At the same point, what is the maximum shear stress? By changing the orientation. So this we are now doing this changing only in this simple plane. You got it? At the same point, that means this is, so you have tau theta equal to tau 45 degrees, for example, is P by 2A. And what is tau? Sigma 45 will become, that also equal to, both are same, is it? P by 2A. And this at 45, the sigma value is half of the maximum, maximum normal stress is P by A. At 45 it becomes P by 2a. So it becomes half. Again if you go on increasing, I think when becomes theta equal to 90, I think you can find out what will happen. So like this, the situation changes. So one can find out both normal and shear stresses. So on any plane both exist in reality, but it may so happen that one will be there, other will not be there. Now when there is a maximum, you must have noted, when there is a maximum normal stress, when is the maximum normal stress? Maximum normal stress P by A, when theta equal to 0. Shear stress is 0. There is no shear stress. So the plane corresponding to the maximum normal stress, there is, on that plane there is no shear stress. So please make a note of this. Whenever there is a maximum normal stress on any plane, shear will disappear there. And what is the maximum shear stress? Maximum shear stress is P by 2a only, 45. You can also find out by what is the other method of finding out maxima and minima. Differentiate this with respect to theta, tau theta, you will get the same result. Please differentiate it, you will get the same result. So it is possible to find out, but I have explained to you how does this happen. So this is on any inclined plane how stresses vary in a simple manner, this is we are talking one dimensional state of stress. So what we do, we will stop here today. Okay, so let me finish